We had a COVID downsizing within Lend Lease, and so I had kind of already been in a position where I had sat on the side of the table where we were the large, here we are a large international developer, and we're approaching a client about a project. And in my time at Lend Lease, I went through a lot of different roles, kind of in a path to leadership, but getting exposure to different functions, which is super helpful now. I had some time in business development, and I remember sitting on the other side of the table as we would propose projects. While they were our client, it didn't feel like we had the same level of information sharing. I knew there were structures or ways we could do things, but your corporate hat says, well, you're getting the better deal by not, kind of sharing as much of that. And so what led me to think is, especially for large institutional landowners with a historically Black focus, they don't have access to that same information. So I'll give you an example of student housing. I realized there was a huge gap in what was offered to, we call it a predominantly white institution versus an HBCU. So, and I'll use this as an example. Vanderbilt has a full real estate department that focuses on land acquisitions, purchases, campus plans, etc. For most HBCUs, they'll have a director of operations or facility. So that person is more into the management of the asset than the proactive strategy around land acquisition or land use or monetizing land assets. I began offering gratis kind of some consultancy, hey, if someone offers to buy X, here's what you should look at. Here are your true options in exploring how to use your land. I started kind of having informal conversations to community groups or civic organizations, and that wound up evolving into churches. I would have lots of speaking engagements about here's what you should do if you're a landowner. As I pivoted from Lend Lease, turned into a consultancy. So that's when we launched Urban Campus and Core, because there were so many what I call institutional landowners, so a church, a HBCU, a family trust, or someone who has a large land holding, but real estate isn't their core function, and they just didn't have kind of the same level of awareness of options. So I was at the time kind of just here are your options. So it was a little a broader version of a feasibility study. What are your goals as an entity? How can your land help you achieve your mission or purpose-driven focus? And so what recently happened was that now that there's kind of been a capital focus on more investment associated with ESG a bit, we've been able to say, hey, this is a good time for you to maybe activate those projects that we talked about or look at that land use. That's why I said, well, I have a development knowledge that I can help serve as a developer. So sometimes that's through a partnership or a fee for fee development.